You know, once again, despite going on for more than 2 weeks, there has been spotty coverage of these protests. Even though many say this is the start of, either sort of a tea party on the left, others, as you just saw, calling it the answer to the Arab Spring here at home, the American autumn. But it wasn't until those arrests on the Brooklyn Bridge over the weekend of 700 people that many people even learned that the protests were going on. So I want to talk about the media aspect of this, as well as the potential shift in energy. And to help me do that, I've got Kristen Gwynne in our New York studio. Kristen is a writer for AlterNet, and she was also one of those 700 people who were arrested. Hey there, Kristen.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Great. I know I read your description of this weekend, and based on what you wrote, this was a combination of young people, people in their 60s, straight people, gay people, people visiting New York for the first time, and that despite basically being corralled off to jail, you wrote about the moments leading up to the arrest when the bridge was taken over, and you said you had a, quote, moment of pride and courage and thought, this is the beginning of something big. Can you elaborate on that for me?
It was just an incredible feeling to be part of thousands of people taking over a public space as monumental as the Brooklyn Bridge, and to put a face on the movement by taking over the bridge. It was just explaining to the public, this is what we're doing. We are the public, we are the 99%, and we're taking back what's ours.
I know when
it was incredible to see.
Go ahead.
It was just incredible to see the sense of pride and courage that it took to deliver such a strong message, and we accomplished that, absolutely.
I know one of the big controversies is the way that police have handled this. I know the first major incident that raised eyebrows was, of course, those young women being pepper sprayed by police. And we had some of those young women on our show last week, but then we see literally hundreds of people, some who say police actually, escorted them onto the bridge only to then be arrested. And yet then NYPD released a video that I want to play for our viewers, and then we can talk about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, since you have refused to leave this roadway, I am ordering your arrest of disorderly conduct. If you do not approve the arresting officer voluntarily to the person transport vehicle, you must be carried. You'll be charged with the additional crime of obstructing government administration, a misdemeanor.
Hard to sort of understand them there, but police wanted people to know that, in fact, they had a megaphone. They warned every single person who went on that bridge, all 700 protesters, that they would be arrested. You were there. I wasn't. Give me your take on. Do you think that everyone knew that if they stepped onto that bridge, they would be arrested?
Absolutely not. I mean, megaphones are nothing compared to thousands of people chanting together. There was a point when we did pass a police officer with a megaphone, and I could not hear anything coming from it. I knew, in fact, that if you took the car route on the bridge, there was a chance you would be arrested, but only because I heard another protester shouting it out to people. I'm sure that most people did not hear him or the police and had no idea that they would be arrested if they went that way. And in fact, that's where most people were going. And there was also a suspiciously low number of police. And the ones who I did see weren't saying anything. I actually walked next to a cop for about 10 minutes down the bridge, and he did not signal to anyone that they might be arrested or even say a word.
I would imagine, too, if all of those protesters had been warned, we wouldn't have seen so many of them sort of climbing over the bridge and trying to get off of it so as not to be arrested, something that, by the way, is probably dangerous. But I want to switch gears. You're a journalist. I want to talk about the media coverage of this as compared to the coverage of everything else. I started today's show off by looking at 3 of the biggest stories in the last 24 hours. Amanda Knox returning home from Italy, the release of the new iPhone, and Chris Christie's announcement that he will not run for president, despite making this announcement dozens of times before. Let's play a few clips of that.
No way.
Gonna run?
No, not gonna happen.
You're still saying categorically not running.
No,
2012.
I'm not running. I'm 100% certain I'm not going to run. I don't want to run. I don't feel like I'm ready to run. First, you have to have, in your heart, you got to want it more than anything else. More than anything else. I don't want it that badly.
Okay, so this is a small section of a montage that Politico put together of the New Jersey governor making it very clear that he will not, in fact, run. And yet there was much more on this non-decision than stories about Occupy Wall Street or really anything else for that matter. As a journalist, as somebody who's attending these Occupy Wall Street protests, what are your thoughts about this?
I think that the mainstream media, for the most part, is corporate, and that it's dangerous for them to display this anti-corporate rhetoric. And I also think that they wonder if their viewers supported them because the movement itself hasn't gone completely mainstream yet, although I think it will very soon. They don't want to jeopardize their viewers and their sponsors.
What you said, you think it is going to go mainstream pretty soon. What do you think it's going to take? I mean, certainly over the weekend, the arrest that you were part of made more people aware of what's going on. But what's it going to take for this movement? It's already been going on more than 2 weeks. What will it take for all the cable networks to make this their lead story?
I think that as it grows, they will have no choice but to report on it, as there are marches with thousands of people taking place all over the country. To ignore this story will be pretty difficult because people will see it in their towns. And I also think that as the unions join, it will kind of change the characteristic of the movement, and people will say less that they're dirty hippies or anarchists and more that these are working people fighting for fair wages and their right to have a job.
Many of those unions, of course, expected to join up tomorrow. I know that a lot of eyes are on Occupy Wall Street to see how much bigger it grows. Want to get your take, Kristen, of sort of the changing sentiment. We're hearing a lot of people comparing what's going on to the Arab Spring in Egypt and Tunisia. Some people even calling it the American Autumn. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that the movement absolutely gained strength and inspiration from the Arab Spring, and that this is a global revolution, and that people all over the world are rising up to say that their governments don't represent them and that they're ready to represent themselves and take control into their own hands. And I think that in that aspect, we are all the same. We're all working people who want money, who want to be paid for the work that we do, and we don't want to continue to pay our government not to support us.
Do you think, Kristen, that your time behind bars, you were with several other people, do you think that that was discouraging for a lot of people?
No, not at all. I think if anything, it inspired people more because there was so much support throughout the entire ordeal from people who weren't being arrested, coming over the bridge to tell us that everything would be okay, that they had bail money for us, that there was a march going on in support of us. And just in the jail cell, we were all talking, supporting each other, and just becoming closer. If anything, I think it strengthened it.
Really, really interesting. I do want to thank you for sharing your story with us. Keep us posted because it seems like this is going nowhere in terms of how fast and big it's getting. Kristen Gwynne, a writer for AlterNet.